All right. We live on Facebook, we live on LinkedIn, live on YouTube, and now Clubhouse. What's going on, everybody? For those who don't know, my name is Trevor Castleberry, CEO of the Castleberry Consulting and author of the For the Hustler book series. I'm a construction management professional, a business efficiency consultant, and also a professional negotiator, which I've honed those skills between growing up in the Bronx, New York, working in construction management, and also in my studies of negotiation and business. So I'm here today to give you guys to speak to you guys about the four negotiation mistakes that are keeping most people underpaid and undervalued. Again, the four negotiation mistakes keeping people underpaid and undervalued. And the first one we're going to start with is you only negotiate when you're desperate. And that's a huge mistake. Number one, how do you even start getting prepared and getting better at negotiating if you only doing it when you're desperate? The hardest time to negotiate is when you're desperate. That's like only working out when you're tired, or you know what I'm saying, or only trying to cook when your hands is messed up or something like that. Like you want to make sure that you're practicing negotiation as much as possible. And the best time to practice that is when you have the most leverage. So the number one mistake people are making is waiting to negotiate when they're on their last dollar or got their last hour to make something happen versus when they could have done it from jump when they had all the leverage in the world to do it. Right. Number two is you don't ask for enough. And what I mean by you don't ask for enough is you don't make enough asks. So in order to make enough asks, what I tell people is you need to be prepared to make at least four asks in every negotiation, which we'll go through in a second. But you need to be prepared to ask for four things minimum in every negotiation. If you want one thing, you need to be prepared to ask for four. Next, you don't know how to speak people's language. You don't learn how to speak people's language, and by that I don't mean Spanish, I don't mean French, I don't mean Italian. I mean their negotiation language, the language that speaks to their negotiation archetype. Uh, you know how people say in order to get somebody to love you, you got to speak their love language. To get somebody to negotiate with you and strike a deal with you, you have to speak their negotiation language. There's three types of negotiators: accommodating, assertive, and analytical. And if you can't identify what the who the other person is, you're not going to speak the right language to them. And when you present an idea to them incorrectly, they're always going to reject it, right? And then lastly, you reject people improperly. You don't reject people the right way. When you make a rejection in a negotiation, especially if it's not at the end of a negotiation, you want to still leave a red carpet open for the person to come back with a counter and keep on working with you. So one thing you don't want to do is just tell somebody no. Like if you walk into a room and say, my services cost $90,000, and that company says, okay, we have a budget for 68,000, and you just say no. Okay, well, the answer is no. Like, what are they supposed to do there? Versus if you say something like, if you ask them a question, especially an open-ended question that leaves them room to continue working with you. And we'll get into that in a second. So now we're looking for solutions to these four major mistakes. Number one, being willing to only negotiating when you're desperate. The thing that you have to do is walk into negotiations, every negotiation being willing to walk away. If you're not willing to walk away from a negotiation, you're not really negotiating, you're begging. You are begging. It don't matter how much money it is you think you're negotiating for. If you don't have the leverage to walk away and you're not willing to walk away, you're in there begging. I don't care if they give you what you asked for, you still begged for it and got it, right? So how do we go about gaining leverage? It's different ways to go about it, especially between if you're an employee, self-employed, a business owner, or an investor. An investor has the ultimate leverage, and then it goes downhill from there. Investor has the most, then business owner, then self-employed, and then an employee. So we'll just go over if you were an employee right now. As an employee, to gain the most leverage at your job, number one, or rather in a new job interview or salary negotiation, one, you want to already be employed, right? We've all went in for a job interview before. Some of us have had the luxury of doing it while employed, but we've all done it at least once unemployed. And you can feel the difference in just the respect factor, what you get when you walk into an interview or a salary negotiation or any type of negotiation. But in this term, a job interview, already employed versus unemployed. Two, you want to have offers from other companies. So obviously you don't just start off with a bunch of offers, but you want to have offers available or at least other interviews lined up. That way, if you're in one specific interview, it's very easy for you to get up and leave due to the opportunities to get more offers or select another offer from another interview or another company. So you want to be employed, and you want to make sure that you have multiple interviews on the plate, so you can have more offers available to you. Number three, you want to have a strong network that is also visible to people at your company. So if you're going in for a job interview and you need to have referrals, it's best to have referrals from within that company, yes. But you also want to have referrals from other competitors to show that if you don't take me, I do have the network to get me in somewhere else. So I do have some leverage to leave if you don't give me what I'm looking for. Also, if you have other people, people of authority on your referral list or in your network, so having a VP or an executive or manager and supervisors as opposed to a bunch of entry level people, those people, due to a persuasion principle of authority, will allow you and give you the grace and the benefit of the doubt when you say things that they can't confirm are true or false. They'll assume that those things are deemed valuable by those coaches or people in your network of higher value or higher status than you. So that's why you want to make sure that you have a network in place that kind of can stimulate what you're bringing to the table in an employee negotiation. So we went over being employed. We went over having offers from other places or other interviews set up. We went over having a network that can stimulate you and validate you. But lastly, you need to have investment income. Why do you need investment income, and what investment do I mean specifically? It doesn't matter if it's stocks, real estate, equity, or you own the business and built it from scratch. You need to have some sort of other income coming in from your job, mainly because if you're in there for an interview and you're not employed and you don't have any other offers on the table and you don't have a network, but you do have a business, one, that income coming in can stimulate you where you don't have to take any petty offer. But also you can use the experience that you gain being an investor in stocks, real estate, equity, anything like that, to also validate what you can bring to the table. So if I'm going into sales and I've never worked in sales, but I do have experience investing in real estate and own multiple properties, I can validate or I have leverage in that negotiation to ask for what I want, because I can say I bring something to the table that a lot of people don't, which is an investment experience and background, which I can now use in negotiations and conversations when I'm trying to close a sale. That's off the top of the head, but that's the way that you can use it. So again, the four biggest mistakes that negotiators make that leave them underpaid or undervalued is only negotiating when they're desperate, and the solution to that is making sure that you're willing to walk away from the table in any negotiation. Number two is is not asking for enough, and the way to do that is going into every negotiation expecting to make at least 4 asks. And when it comes to those 4 asks, you want to make sure that it comes down to front end money, so salary and wage, back end money, so annual raise, KPIs that you can leverage for bonuses. So what marks do I have to hit to be successful in this company and in this role? And lastly, non-monetary additions that you can add on that will make your experience working there more convenient and more comfortable, whether that's what time you come in, if you work remote or hybrid, what work location you working at, and what conditions you working in, right? Whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're negotiating for stuff to make the job comfortable if it's not 100% comfortable there. So again, number one was you're not willing to walk away. You need to build leverage. Number two, you don't ask for enough, meaning you need to have at least 4 asks for everything you want. So even if you're walking in there for a salary, remember you need to ask for a salary, you need to ask about annual raise, you need to ask about KPIs to leverage a bonus, and you need to ask about non-monetary additions. The third mistake that people were making was you don't speak the other person's language. There's 3 types of negotiators: analytical, assertive, and accommodating. And all 3 of them have very different personality types, although most people have traits from multiple archetypes. But one is going to be the one that is directly related to your personality due to just your nature, your culture, your experience. Assertive people just think time is money. They don't really care about your feelings, and they just want to get the job done no matter how it has to get done. They don't care about having the perfect solution before they start taking action. If it's silent during the conversation, they're more than willing to fill that silence to double down on what they were saying and keep explaining their point. That's the assertive negotiator. The accommodating negotiator, they like to tell stories. They like to be real personal. If they're trying to close a sale or close a partnership, they might actually go meet with you for lunch, go meet with you for breakfast, go meet with you for dinner, call you and talk about the family. They really are all about building relationships. They hate silence during negotiations, and they often go overtime in their meetings. So if that sounds like you or somebody you know, they're definitely an accommodating negotiator. And lastly, you have the analytical negotiator, which most people are, and this person hates conflict. So they're not going to sit in the room and handle conflict well with an assertive negotiator. They're much more likely to leave the room. Two, they make all their justifications based on numbers, facts, and data, right? So it's like if most people are not good negotiators because they don't want to deal with the conflict of going back and forth with somebody. So they're willing to sit there and just crunch the numbers and say, I'm making my decision based on this, not based off my heart or my head. It's just these numbers say this is the way to go. Even if it's flipping a coin, they might flip it 3 times and say 2 of those times was heads, so I'm making this decision. But they're going to come down to some mathematical reason why it made sense to make this decision. And that's the analytical person. Again, the reason they're doing that is because they want to avoid conflict at all costs. Those are the 3 negotiator types. There are different ways to identify or to get people to reveal their negotiator archetype. But the number one way to do that is to use an assertive tactic, something like, repetition. So imagine you went in to buy a car. You go in and they ask you your budget, and you say my budget is $20,000. Then they say, okay, what type of model were you looking for? And then you repeat yourself. My budget is $20,000. They'll realize, they'll get the hint of, okay, this guy's not really here to play any games. Let's just get him this $20,000 car, right? So you want to, and as that person responds to you from doing that, you can figure out from their response, are they assertive, accommodating, or analytical, right? So one, people always wait too long to negotiate. They wait till they're desperate. How do you solve that? Gaining more leverage. We went over the 4 ways to do that. 2, people don't ask for enough. How do you solve that? Making sure you ask for at least 4 things, even though you're only going in primarily for 1, or even if you're only going in primarily for 1. Next, or the 3rd one, you don't learn other people's languages. How do you do that? You have to figure out ways to use assertive tactics to get people to reveal their negotiator archetype, so you know how to present information to them in a way that'll resonate with them, so they can move in your favor versus reject your proposal. And then lastly, you don't reject people properly. When you reject people, you want to use a question, right? Especially in a negotiation, because you want to still leave room to continue working with them. So imagine you going for, you're going in to sell your product. You say it's $90,000. The other person say we only have 70. Instead of saying no, you say, how am I supposed to accept $70,000? And you sit there and you let them respond. When you ask them that question, and this is proof coming from Chris Voss, the CIA #1 hostage and salary, and #1 negotiating consultant in the country. This is his #1 thing: mirroring people, asking them, how am I supposed to do that, and staring them in their face until they give you a good answer. If they don't give you a good answer, you can hit them with the how am I supposed to do that again until they find a good answer. You want to make sure that you're using something that leaves the conversation open-ended, where now the ball does return to their court and they're able to see what they can do to work in your favor. Again, before you're able to figure out what to do, and before you're able to present your information to them to actually start persuading them to work in your favor, you have to already get them committed to liking you and being willing to work with you. And how do you do that? Figuring out, making sure you have leverage, making sure that you're asking enough questions, so you're building that relationship and getting all the information out, making sure they're comfortable, learning their language so you know how to speak to them, and lastly, not insulting them by making rejections with a flat statement or no. You need to use calibrated questions, which is something else you'll learn from myself, as well as from professionals like Chris Voss online. Again, my name is Trevor Castleberry, CEO of Castleberry Consulting. I'll be coming on live on multiple platforms every night for the whole month of November, which we've deemed Negotiation November, to give you guys live and direct negotiation tips and tricks that you guys can use in your daily lives, whether you're an employee, self-employed, a business owner, or investor. And I'm just here to make sure I can help you guys any way possible. I do have exclusive content that I post on each platform. So things on Facebook are not the same things on LinkedIn, which are not the same things on, YouTube. So it's in your best interest, if you like this material on one platform, to follow me on the rest. The best way for you to do that is to just go to Castleberry.com. That's CASSABERRY.com, and you'll get all the links to my social media at the bottom of the page. And lastly, if you're thinking to yourself, wow, this dude was so insightful, he gave me a bunch of gems that I could use, about 16 tips in less than 20 minutes. I'd love to see what else I can actually learn from him. You're more than welcome to also go to Castleberry.com and check out my Gain More Leverage Challenge, where I'm going to be taking 5 days in the month of November to teach everybody who joins how to, one, identify, and two, gain and utilize more leverage when they go into contract negotiations, sales, and partnership negotiations. Again, my name is Trevor Castleberry, CEO of Castleberry Consulting and author of the For the Hustler book series. Peace.